So this meeting will be recorded and it will be posted on the department's website afterwards. Also with me tonight, I have Kahana Albino, our Acting Land Management Division Administrator. And also with us tonight from Aha Punana Leo, Waimea, I have Keishan Kikina, Maluhia Odano, and Talia Bailey. So welcome everyone to the meeting. For those of you who just jumped on, if you don't mind signing in to the chat box, please leave your first and last name, whether you are a DHHL lessee, waitlist applicant or other, and contact information if you'd like us to contact you afterwards. So I'm just gonna go through a couple introductory slides. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to collect DHHL beneficiary feedback on a proposed long-term use of DHHL land by the Aho Punana Leo Hawaiian Language Preschool. Just general housekeeping items. Even though we are meeting virtually because of the pandemic, we would like you to kind of follow these types of guidelines to ensure that we have a orderly meeting. So if you are not talking, please keep your microphone on mute. This will eliminate background noise, like if your neighbor is cutting the grass or your neighbor's dog is barking. It'll help to cut down on that type of noise. Later on in the meeting, should you have a question or want to make a comment, you can do it in two ways. You can raise your hand or your virtual hand, and I will call on you. Or you can leave a comment or question in the chat, and I will make sure to come back to those in the chat. And also, just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. And once again, if you're jumping on, please sign into the chat leaving your name, whether you're a DHHL lessee or applicant or other. While we are meeting virtually and we are not meeting in person, like any other DHHL beneficiary consultation meeting, we do have kuleana to one another. Please be respectful of the person talking. Please do not interrupt the person that is talking. Wait for the facilitator, who will be myself tonight, to call on you or type your question into the chat. When addressing the other participants, verbally or in the chat box, please be respectful, show aloha, and treat others how you would like to be treated. Agree to disagree, accept that others may have different perspective and opinions. So this goes for both the participants as well as department staff. Please have an open mind, and please enter this meeting with the mindset that you will be taking home new ideas or new information. The department's beneficiary consultation policy requires beneficiary consultation for 4 types of proposals that require the Hawaiian Homes Commission approval. These 4 types include statewide policy issues, amendments to the department's land use designations in its island plan, development of DHHL plans, so that includes the island plans, regional plans, or development plans of new homesteads, and lastly, long-term use of department land for a non-homesteading use, which is the reason why we're here tonight. So tonight's agenda can be broken down into 2 main parts. First, there will be a presentation by Aha Punana Leo. They will be giving background about their program and why they are seeking a long-term disposition from the department. And then the second part of the meeting is an opportunity for beneficiaries to ask questions and also to share their mana'o on the proposed use of department lands. And then lastly, we will end the meeting with next steps in the process. So with that, I'd like to pass it on to Keishan Kekina of Punana Leo o Waimea.
Aloha mai kākou, o Keishan Kekina ko inoa no Waialua mai au. My name is Keishan Kekina. I am from Waialua, Oahu. I serve as the Chief Operating Officer of Aha Punana Leo. And Peter, could you just, or Andrew, could you switch to the next slide? Mahalo nui. I'd like to take this opportunity to give a brief background of our organization, as well as talk about some of the current and future endeavors that we have been working diligently to bring to fruition. So Aha Punana Leo is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that has been at the forefront of Hawaiian language revitalization for the past 36 years. We were founded in 1983. At our inception, there were less than 30 speakers under the age of 18. Today, we have more than 25,000 Olelo speakers. Our vision is E Ola Kaulelo Hawaii, or the Hawaiian language shall live. Our mission is to drive and inspire change, to ensure a living Hawaiian language in Hawaii and beyond. We currently have 13 preschools across the state of Hawaii. We strive to develop and strengthen the essence of Hawaiian language and Hawaiian cultural perspectives in our communities through our high and exceptional quality educational programming. Our organization was one of the world's first accredited early education programs conducted through an endangered and indigenous language under the guidelines set by the World Indigenous Nations Higher Education Consortium. WINHEC is internationally organized and recognized on a global stage. In our efforts to leave a larger imprint and go beyond Hawaii, one route that we have found success through has been working with many Native American tribes to establish learning models for the respective native languages. Currently, COVID was a tough time for everyone and every business for that matter, but Aha Punana Leo was able to find opportunity. And we are currently opening 2 new sites, one in Nu'uanu and one in Waialua, both on the island of Oahu. We are excited to be expanding into these communities as well as continuing to focus on those where we are already present, like Waimea. With that said, I'd like to turn this over to Maluhia, who is the Kahu or site director of our Punana Leo o Waimea, and she'll give some site-specific information. Mahalo nui loa.
Mahalo e ke Sean. Aloha hiahi kako o wau no o Maluhia O'Donnell. Komo wau I keia halawai ma ke ano he limahana a ka he makua kekahi. Aia ka o kaikamahine ma ka papa umi. Ma alo ke hau ka aina mauna. No laila, nui ka o haole I keia oko pakahi I keia ahi. Mahalo ke Sean and good evening everyone. My name is Maluhia O'Donnell. Like he said, I am the site coordinator for Punana Leo o Waimea, but I also am a makua as well. So I have a daughter who's in the 10th grade at Alokehau Ka'aina Mauna. So she is part of that class that will be graduating in 2 years. So Peter, if you could go on to the next, or Andrew, whoever it is, Kalamai, to the next slide. All right. Oh, jump back one. There we go. Okay, so Punana Leo was opened in 1995. We just celebrated on July 16th, our 26-year anniversary of this school being founded. And some of those critical organizations that were key to making this school come into fruition were the Kupuna program at under the DOE at Waimea Elementary. So of course, with any mea Hawaii that you start, it's always good to consult with the Kupuna, which is what happened back in the 90s. And then Nakalewa'a, so that is our voyaging canoe ohana of Makali'i, also were involved in the founding of the school. Kumupua cases, Hula Halau o Keala o na Maupua was involved, and Na Aikane o Pu'ukohala. So all of these organizations came together to help found the school, and not with just the idea that it would be a school for just Olelo Hawaii, but how do we keep the language going also within our culture, and how do we keep our cultural practices going through our Olelo? So of course, the Aikane o Pu'ukohala were helping to restore the heiau at that time. And it's not just about, putting rocks into place. It's also about the spiritual aspect. For the hula halau, of course, being able to speak Olelo and to know Olelo is critical to being able to dance. And the Nakalewa are very interested in having, hopefully one day, having a crew being able to sail all through using the Olelo Hawaii Valeno. So, and of course, like Auntie Edie said, the Hawaiian Civic Club was also very critical in helping out with the startup of Punana Leo Waimea over 26 years ago. So in those 26 years, there have been 431 keiki and ohana who have come through our program. Of course, our program is a family-based education program. So many of our ohanas come through this program not knowing too much Olelo Hawaii, and through being involved, they get to grow along with their keiki and learn along with their keiki the Olelo Hawaii and use it as much as possible at home and wherever they may be. Our school has served kids all the way from Pauhau to Kapa'au. So a wide geographical range of students that we serve, being that we are the only Hawaiian language medium education here in Kohala in North Hawaii. So Hawaiian language medium education means that keiki are taught completely through the Olelo Hawaii. So all of their subjects are taught through Hawaiian language. And of course, being Hawaii and having 2 official languages of this state, it is critical that we have Hawaiian language as an opportunity for education for our families and beneficiaries. So last year we had 9 ohana that were beneficiaries. And this year we will serve at least 15 ohana who are beneficiaries of DHHL, and that would be 21 ahaumana total that are current beneficiaries. Not only do we provide the opportunity for our keiki and our ohana to learn Olelo Hawaii and participate, especially beneficiaries, but also we provide employment to beneficiaries. So currently 4 out of our 10 staff are beneficiaries, as well as many of the past teachers who have been through this program. And one of them is on right now, Ku'ule Keakealani. She was one of the teachers and also a beneficiary. So that's a quick synopsis of Punana Leo Waimea. Mahalo. Oh, you can go on to the next slide, Peter. That's just a quick picture of the kula itself. And then the last whole school picture that we were able to have. So that includes Alokeha, which is our kindergarten through 10th grade program, reaching up till 12th grade in 2 years. So of course, last year we didn't get to take a school picture with everyone due to COVID. So this was the one from the year before that shows all of the students and their families. And then on to the next slide. Keishan, were you going to address this or you wanted me to go ahead and talk about this?
Talia, could you please present this slide?
Sure. So this is showing the area that we currently occupy. Oh, Kalamai.
Aloha, ova o Talia Bailey, kamanakia lawe hana, o ka'aha punana leo maki ke ana ala ka'i mahilo. Aloha, my name is Talia Bailey. I am the Facilities and Administration Manager at our main office located in Hilo. I'm also Makua, however, may keiki go to the main site over in Kea'au, Navihi, and they did graduate from Punana Leo o Hilo, located in Kea'au. For this is a map in the yellow that provided by DHHL. This is the property that we have with the trailer. There is a discussion later that someone's gonna bring up regarding requests for additional property as our school is growing and our class sizes are getting larger. We're currently preschool through 10th grade. Anything else you wanted to add, Maluhia, on the map? Okay, moving to the next slide. Okay, so the activities to be conducted on the site, of course, we are a Hawaiian medium education Punana Leo preschool. All of the instruction of our preschool, as soon as the keiki arrive to as soon as the keiki leave, is all solely taught through the Hawaiian language. We are designed for individuals and families who choose to speak Hawaiian are in the process of establishing it as a primary language. As Keishan mentioned, the mission of the Aha Punana Leo e ho'olu I ke kai o lalo Hawaii, no ko Hawaii nei I mau o Hawaii he aina aloha. As Keishan mentioned, the drive and inspire change to ensure a living Hawaiian language in Hawaii and beyond. We want to ensure that the families are also a part of the education of the child. So the activities that we have is not only preschool for the keiki to come and learn. We have the Huiki Pai Pai, which is our family engagement classes, held twice a month. For the Huiki Pai Pai, it is a requirement of our families that do attend. We do have Huiki Pai Pai at all 13 of our sites. However, we do encourage the community to attend our Huiki Pai Pai. Anybody is able to come. And we have the different classes. Sometimes we do Olelo, Hawaiian language classes, whether we're teaching the parents the hula or different oli, the different mele that the keiki are learning in the classes. Sometimes we'll have a focus on lapa'au, different ways, different like the words that go along with the topics that they're learning, so the families can learn hands-on what the keiki are also learning. In addition to that, we do have La Ohana, which are family days, sometimes on the weekends, sometimes in the evenings, during the weekdays, for all of the families to come together and do some sort of engagement class, whether it's strength bonding amongst the families. Sometimes we'll do some type of activity together where they can give back to the site, something they can take home, something they can bring back to the family members who weren't able to go. In addition to that, as Maluhia mentioned, we do have Alokehau Uka'aina Mauna, which is a satellite of Kekula o Nabiki o Kalani o Pu'u. Currently, Alokehau is kindergarten through 10th grade. This upcoming year, they'll be adding 10th grade and following year 11th grade and 12th grade. As I mentioned earlier, which as we add more grades, we add more bodies, we add more students, we add more teachers. But that is our mission, is to keep adding, to keep expanding, and to keep that going each year. Mahalo nui. Next slide.
Mahalo nui, Maluhia and Talia. So the Aha Punana Leo services a population comprised of an average of 95% of Native Hawaiians. Obviously, Aha Punana Leo affords the beneficiaries the opportunity to choose Hawaiian language medium education for their keiki, as well as their ohana. However, when you couple that benefit with our Huiki Pai Pai, which is our Hawaiian language classes that are available to the keikis, ohana, and the community, we are then creating environments and spaces for our Olelo to live and grow. Those spaces will naturally expand and evolve as people seek to practice what they're learning. Waimeanui and Ka'ua Paliloa have worked together to provide free meals to the community over the past year and have collaborated in the past on events such as the Paniolo Parade and Christmas celebration to increase interaction between students and beneficiaries and provide opportunities to hear and practice Olelo Hawaii, again, creating more spaces. Approximately 33% of our student body comes from beneficiary ohana. And if I can leave you with one exceptional value to beneficiaries, it is living and breathing Olelo into the community in the spaces that I just mentioned. Creating speakers within a community will naturally support the use of Hawaiian language in so many interactions. It creates a presence within a community and a home or a nest for our language to grow and spread. And ultimately, your Olelo will become normalized, meaning that when you walk into the supermarket, you will hear it. When you wait at the bus, you will hear it. When you return home to your families, you will hear it. You will hear Olelo. And that will encourage everyone to Olelo. Mahalo nui loa.
Mahalo nui, Keishan, Maluhia, and Talia for your presentation. So that was Aha Punana Leo o Waimea's presentation. Now it's an opportunity for our beneficiaries to ask questions on the presentation. So again, if you want to ask questions, please either raise your virtual hand or type a comment into the chat and I will get to it. Don't all speak at once. Is that Auntie Kanani? Okay, go ahead, Auntie Kanani.
Okay, the picture that was shown of the land that encompasses the current or to be the new license, is that all within the 0.42 acres?
So the question is this land the 0.42 acres? Kahana, can you answer that?
Correct. That is the current site, and that is the existing site that they have right now, and the site that we hopefully will continue with the new license.
That that portion that's marked within that yellow line.
Correct, Auntie.
And
again, it's not surveyed, it's about approximate kind of measurement.
Auntie, you had another question.
I have another question, or a statement.
Okay.
They should not be paying $10,800 annually. They should be gratis. I mean, what is a higher value use than education or kupuna housing, which we have people actually servicing them? I would like that decreased to $100 a year. Thank you very much.
Mahalo, Auntie, for your comments and question. Other comments or question? Well, we'll take questions first. Any questions on the presentation that you folks received?
Aloha pumehana kako, o wau o ku'ulei kia lani, hau'oli wau e ako pu me o koe ki ahi ma ke ia ano, mea o ke ia wā, he ano Zoom. I'm certainly privileged and honored to be a part of this evening, and that something such as this technological advance Zoom brings us together. I did have a question, and then I'll probably maybe comment a little later, but one of my questions is, as one of the original staff and group of people who came together to ho'okumu and ho'omaka and begin and start our punana leo o Waimea, I recall the pasture on the map. You guys will see it. It was a little, what we call pa'eke, or a little holding for sheep, for hipa. And those sheep certainly helped with some of our kamali'i who had in the mornings some separation anxieties, didn't want to leave mama or daddy or whomever dropped them off. So that was kind of a neat, and most of our children came from Waimea, so it was very ma'a to seeing sheep outside the window. But I know for me, it really helped kind of ease for a lot of the children that did have some separation anxiety, looking out and peering out to the hipa, or walking them out to the fence to see the sheep was helped in their transition and ease into school. But with knowing the expansion, the need for potential expansion as the children numbers increase, which is a blessing, is there a potential to maybe kind of assume a portion or all of what was or is? I'm not sure, Maluhia, if it still is a hipa pen, but we had folks like, I think back then it was John Bohr, a local sheep shepherd, if you will. It was his sheep, and others, I think, throughout the years have utilized that. But I guess that's a question, is if in the expansion, there's any sort of possibility or thought to be able to utilize some of what was that sheep pen. Mahalo nui.
So the question, oh, go ahead, Kahana.
Go ahead, yeah. I guess from LMD side, I don't want to say yes, I don't want to say no. I mean, that's something we can explore and maybe, you know, bring it up to the commission and have them, you know, have them make the consideration or whether to allow for that. And that's where we are with that. Right now, it's just the license, getting the license through. And if and when the license gets through and issued, then we can continue that discussion and explore that opportunity.
Progress.
Mahalo Anui.
Mahalo ku'ule. Auntie Kanani, you have your hand up.
So the license that just ended was for 20 years. Our license is only for 20 years. I see other schools have much longer licenses and even don't pay. So what is being considered? And when you go to the commission, you need to go, Kahana, you need to go with a recommendation.
Correct. So the recommendation is to continue as the initial license was for 10 years. I mean, I believe it's for 10 years with an additional 10-year period, so a total 20 years.
Wanna put our video on or no need?
Yeah.
Huh?
Unless they're asking.
You don't have to.
No.
Huh? Can you grab your sister for a little while? Oh, kalamaya.
Yeah, so
Aloha.
for those of
sister,
you who
not on mute.
join, yeah, please mute yourself. Thank you. I muted myself. Maluhia, you have your hand up.
Only I do that.
Aloha. So mahalo ku'ule for your mana'o and for sharing. Yeah, so it is a 10-year. We had it, the last lease we had was a 10-year lease, just for clarification.
Yeah, and then we extended it, I think an additional 10 years, Maluhi, is that right? I don't have the papers in front of me, but.
I don't have the paperwork. I believe
okay.
or Keishawn would have it. I just have what was in the past.
I do.
Sorry?
Uncle Mike, I do.
Oh, you have it too?
Yeah.
So, and the piece of land that Ku'ule was speaking about, we had asked for at least as early as 2018. We had attended a commission meeting at Hopuna Prince Hotel and had requested at that time the use of that land. My understanding was that I was told that was only about a 3/4 maybe acre of land, which is not a lot for us for expanding. It would be something that would be a temporary help. And my understanding was there was that Hawaiian Homes, whoever that may be, whoever the powers that be were, didn't want to put any infrastructure into that area. And so that's why there was no response. But since 2018, we have not gotten any response. We did ask as well if there was any other property in Waimea that we might be able to use as we continue to expand, because as we add more grades, of course, we do need more space. This particular site, we can't add any more bathrooms to. So that is the issue, is that if we add more students, we can't add more bathrooms. So we need somewhere bigger. And to be able to grow our language, of course, we would need much more acreage.
More space.
Are there questions on the presentation at this time? If not, there was one comment in the chat from, I believe that's Jojo Tanimoto. She says she agrees on a minimum amount of rent, $100. School needs more land for space for a population of growing schools. Other comments that folks on the call would like to make?
I guess my only comment or question is when will we be able to get an answer as to if there is somewhere in Waimea that we might be able to switch properties to that might be able to accommodate a growing Hawaiian language school?
I meant, are there any other comments from our beneficiaries on the presentation or the requests?
Oh,
before that? Yeah. But I think to address your question, Maluhia, we'd have to look at our inventory and see what is designated for homesteading and what are areas that are not. that might be suitable for your folks' needs. But for that, we would have to do another beneficiary consultation.
Aloha mai kako o wau o Kalau Kahaku Akima Akau. Kalamai, I'm Lohi Loa because I just got off the canoe. But in consideration, just some mana'o, that Punana Leo is the oldest preschool and school outside of Kamehameha School and Kanuoka'aina in Waimea. So please consider that we being the eldest school on Hawaiian Homes on Aina Ho'opulapula in Waimea, that a place either we be allowed to use what was that community pasture to the Hamakua side of our existing hale, or that we find a place, just like how DHHL was able to give Kamehameha Preschool an area and Kanuoka'aina a bigger area. So please consider that Punana Leo o Waimea is the eldest of those schools on Aina Ho'opulapula in Waimea. Mahalo.
Mahalo for that comment. Other comments, other mana'o people would like to share at this time?
Aloha mai kako o Leilani widow ko'inoa. I just want to mahalo Punana Leo because we are we're on Hawaiian Homes and all of our keiki have attended Punana Leo and it's been such a blessing. But yeah, mahalo nui.
Mahalo for that comment. Auntie Kanani.
Kahana, what are the steps you're going to take to be able to initiate the new license?
We got to get through this beneficiary consultation. We're hopefully going to present it to the commission next month.
Well, actually, per our beneficiary consultation policy, there's a 30-day comment period after this meeting to allow beneficiaries to ample opportunity to comment on this. So that 30-day comment period actually goes beyond when the August commission meeting.
Okay, sorry about that.
So what date would that be?
So the soonest entity that we would take, the commission would take action on this will be September.
But you will receive comments till August, August what? 20th?
August 20, yeah, August 20th, that would be 30 days.
So Kahana, September, when you're preparing to present to the commission, is that when I assume that you're gonna be talking to Punana Leo regarding what you're gonna be offering?
Yes. And those terms and conditions will be in the submittal also, yeah?
Mm-hmm. So our licenses, well, going by reading the annual report, your licenses go even up to 50 years. How long? Well, actually, they need more space to be able to have more students, add the years, and they need more space, and then there would need, it would be nice to have more time. Malohia? What time, what period, how long a term would you like? Would you folks like?
Mahalo nui for asking that, Auntie. Certainly 10 years I think would be enough because like we have been saying, we're growing out of this space. So really the major concern at this point is at least having something until we can find another piece of land or another piece of property, actually, not just land, we need property that we can work with to have school.
And along those lines, I think L&D was considering a 10-year with another 1 year, one-time 10-year extension on top of that also. So total would be 20 years. You get that?
I did hear that.
Okay.
And if you plan to give them additional land, does that, or another space, will they have to have infrastructure in that space that to consider to give them additional land?
We would have to go back to the commission to get that additional land or consider larger land.
How do we hear where you're looking at?
Again, as Andrew had mentioned, we got to look at the land inventory and see what is available. I'm sure there's land available, but we have to figure out the priorities as far as homesteaders and community use. Andrew, I mean, if you can add to that.
I think what Auntie was asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, Auntie, is how would the beneficiaries be informed of areas that the department would be potentially considering for the school? So the answer would be we would have to do another consultation meeting to inform everyone about a future potential area that the department might consider giving to the school.
Well, actually that could happen shortly. I mean, they need the space now. They need, they've been doing good work. There's no question. And we'd like, I'm sure, as Mike Hudson, how about you speak up?
I'm waiting for my turn, Auntie.
Yeah, now your turn.
Just asking questions about the presentation. I'm next on the agenda. Is that true, Andrew?
You can speak when you feel comfortable speaking.
Well, I figure after you power with the presentation, then
yeah.
Question. If you power with that, then
yeah, it seems unless other folks on the call right now have questions, we are taking mana'o on your opinion on the school's request for use of Hawaiian homelands. So for those of you who haven't had an opportunity to talk or type into the chat, now's your opportunity.
So Andrew, I did type in the chat just directly to you about this inventory and what might be available in Waimea and how long we can expect that to take. That would be useful information because, like I said, we went to the commissioners in 2018 and haven't gotten a response since then. So something to give us a timeline would be helpful, or what are the next steps for us?
Well, I think what Kahana was saying was let's get the license for this existing site first, and then let's take a look at what might be available, given that you know what we do use for a school is lands that won't be used for homesteading. So I guess what that means is for lands that are close to infrastructure, the department would prioritize that for homesteading. For lands that might be not serviced with infrastructure, that might be sites that we might consider, but it would also mean that there would be added costs for the school to develop those sites. So it's a conversation that is, it's not a, it would be a back and forth conversation between the department, which would be the land management division, along with planning office, with Kahana and myself about what might be suitable lands that would not impact our ability to address the wait list, as well as lands that might be of interest to you.
Mahalo for bringing that up, Maluhia, and we definitely look forward to having that conversation in the future after securing what is in front of us, and then also looking at, you know, how we can maximize our benefit in terms of, you know, how much we're paying. So, you know, looking at lands that are close to infrastructure and things that are, you know, more closely ready to move into or turnkey are definitely things that we would like to see. So, you know, we look forward to seeing the inventory list. Mahalo nui.
Just to point out, lands that are close to infrastructure, the department would take a good look at it first for homesteading opportunities first, prior to non-homesteading opportunities.
Alrighty.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hudson.
Okay, mahalo. Thank you for getting us involved. I appreciate the fact that as the president of Waimea Hawaiian Homestead Association, obviously lands having to do within our region should be addressed by our organization. So if you don't know, I'm the president of Waimea Hawaiian Homestead Association. I've been asked by our executive board and numerous divisional board members to address this issue. Everybody got it in the mail. Several of them were going to be on the call, but they had previous engagements. They're not on the call. Obviously, I looked at who's on the call. I've been in communication with the board members of our association, and we consolidated most of the opinions and concerns they have. 6 major things that was addressed with 2 weeks of conversations that I had. One was the history of our land and the building that Punanaleo occupies. They felt that that was an important thing, that we just not realizing the Aina, not realizing the uses of our Aina and the history of that Aina that we possess. That's really important when we're looking at it. This is their concerns. Number 2 was address beneficiary benefits as a condition for a license to use our land, our regional lands, percentage of beneficiaries or beneficiary children in attendance. 3 was no longer than a 10-year license. 4 was no additional lands must be in line with, any additional lands must be in line with Homestead's master plan of Waimea Nui, an entity registered with the Department of Interior as the first Homestead Beneficiary Association that identify lands within our region as territory lands under the Aupa of Waimea Nui. No fees, gratis. The emergence of our culture and language is paramount to the success of our rehabilitation in Waimea Nui. Hawaiian Homes Commission should be fair and equitable in comparison with other schools and or churches using our lands. Give me the time to explain a little bit of what they asked me to do. So I'm gonna go over the history. So the history of that land, CCC camp administered by the Department of Interior and the National Park Services. The Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, was a work relief program that gave millions of young men employment in environmental projects during the Great Depression, considered by many to be one of the most successful of Roosevelt's New Deals, President Roosevelt. Started in 1933, the CCC planted more than 3 billion trees and constructed trails and shelters in more than 800 parks nationwide, national parks. During its 9 years of existence, Hawaiian Homes Commission Act lands administered by the Department of Interior prior to statehood used these lands presently occupied by the Department of Hawaiian Homelands known as Kuhio Haleho. CCC camp, by recall of our eldest kupuna in the village, Auntie Eva Kialamakia, 99, told me this, that she was 12 when they built the camp in 1934. The camp consisted of Quonset hut cottages in the front, an office and a hall in the middle, and the back an infirmary. When the war broke out, the military took over the facilities until the mid-1940s. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, the cottages were used to house future lessees who were waiting for their homes to be built in Kuhio Village. The cottages were used well into the 60s. Personal information on that, my wife's grandpa and her dad stayed at the cottages for almost 3 years before their house was built in Kuhio Village. So my wife also has personal information on that. The cottages have since been torn down. The office and hall was demolished and a new office and hall built in 1975 for $350,000. I believe the demolition started in 71. The infirmary was left vacant, and in 1981, Kamuela Congregational Jehovah's Witness leased the property for $400 a year. And in 1990, it went up to $408. Then in 1993, $456. This was the last year they leased the property with the use of the infirmary building of 0.4 acres. So that's a time frame of 12 years. In 1994, Punanaleo decided to expand to Waimea and lease the building for $6,000 a year. And it stayed that way until 2001. In 2001, they signed a 5-year license for gratis. The license was extended to 2014, 13 years at gratis. In 2014, the license was extended to 2021 at a fee of $10,800 a year or $900 a month. And this is where it stands today. Over the years, the school invested over $100,000 Punana Leo School and invested over $100,000 in costs with volunteer labor fixing and refurbishing the very old building, 1934 built, making it useful for the education of the children attending the Hawaiian language school, an asset to our Native Hawaiian community. I got that information, much of which was on the county website, and put up all the permits and the estimated costs of the construction. Topic benefits. The homestead is asking that a condition be placed on the license that at least 30% of enrollees of the school must be a beneficiary or from a beneficiary of family. Now it's obvious, and which is what I mentioned to the board, that the school meets these conditions every year anyway. So, but it's nice to have that condition in the license. They felt that was important. And that shouldn't be a problem with Punana Leo because they meet over and beyond that condition. Terms and condition, the license should not be for more than 10 years and no additional lands. The beneficiary association should have a means for redress, and giving a longer term license like Kanu o Kaina 50 years gives us no say with the organization and no recourse. And this is the example that was given. Kanu had a condition in the license that they would provide a space for the Homestead Association to have their monthly meetings. This went on fine for the first 2 years. Then Kanu decided to charge the homestead $300 a night for the use of their facilities. Statements provided to our board, we are providing a space, but we didn't say it was for free in the license. So we need to make sure that the license are clearly stated what they did. So they circumvented the license, and that's what happened. We have to wait to 2061, 50 years, to address this issue. That sounds kind of ridiculous. No license beyond 10 years. We can deal with 10-year increments. You think about the 50-year license with Kanu, that's 2 generations will be lost before the beneficiaries have a say on that land. That's not Pono, okay? Area of comparison. This is comparison issues brought up by the board members. Punana Leo pays $10,800 a year for the use of 0.4 acres with a very old building left by the Department of Interior and the Department of Defense, not by the Department of Hawaiian Homes. Kanu o Kaina Learning Ohana presently has 50-year license as of 2007 for 30 acres at gratis, free. Kanu o Kaina Learning Ohana has a 10-year license as of 2001 for 4.62 acres in Pu'upuleho for $600 a year. Kamehameha Preschool, as of 2000, has a 65-year general lease for 2 acres at gratis. Education and funding. Kamehameha Schools is funded by the wealthiest entity in Hawaii, Bishop Estates. They have more money and more land than the Hawaiian Homes Commission Trust. 2 acres at gratis, a Protestant school that continues to educate Westernization. Kanu o Kaina Ohana operates a public charter school and is funded through the Department of Education in the arena of $1 to $2 million a year. 30 acres at gratis, and follows the state educational system, the same system that indoctrinated our grandparents, our great-grandparents, that they were American citizens. Kanu o Kaina Ohana utilizes an additional 4.62 acres at a different Hawaiian Homes Commission Act property in Pu'upuleho for $50 a month. Punana Leo Hawaiian Emerging School is a struggling nonprofit of Native Hawaiians initiated by homesteaders like Kamaka Rollins from Kilkaa, Paneva, focused on reestablishing our language and the perpetuation of our Native Hawaiian culture, 0.4 acres at $900 a month. Like most Native Hawaiians in the community, 3 of my now adult children attended Kapalama Kamehameha School, so I'm not trashing it. And 1 went to Kanu o Kaina. 3 of 7 grandchildren went to Punana Leo. 1 went to Kamehameha Preschool. These schools are utilized by our beneficiaries here in Waimea. I point out the discrepancies in the way Punana Leo has been treated financially over the past 7 years, $900 a month, is not very much to the Hawaiian Homes Commission Trust. But $900 a month to a struggling school, a nonprofit, is a lot. The school is well-maintained, landscaped, and well-kept at their cost. So this is my point of view, my testimony. Why charge the preschool anything at all? If the purpose of the act is for the rehabilitation of the Native Hawaiians, are they not a major player in that purpose? Is Punana Leo not a major player in our purpose? Reestablishing and rehabilitating our people starts with health, language, and culture. The problem with our Hawaiian people, including the Commission and the Hawaiian Homes, Department of Hawaiian Homes, we don't understand what rehabilitation means. So the definition of rehabilitation: restore someone to health or normal life by training and therapy after imprisonment, addiction, or illness. Number two, restore to former privileges or reputations after a period of critical or official disfavor. Now, rehabilitation don't fall within those two categories when you're dealing with the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act. Number three, return, especially an environment feature, to its former condition. And this is where we fall. Why is it that 26 years after the white community in our kingdom dismantled our government, restricted our language and the practice of our culture, took over the educational system in an all-out effort to indoctrinate our people, to make us believe that we were American citizens, took or stole everything of value from our kingdom, including our lands, and then abolished our government and created a new government, excluding the Native Hawaiians from it, that we need to be rehabilitated. Now, the federal government, also Department of Justice, concludes that we as Hawaiians are sovereign people because that new government never, ever included the Native Hawaiians. And that is the government that we know of today. The provisional government, the Republic of Hawaii, the Territory of Hawaii, the State of Hawaii. That government never included us. So the question about the need to rehabilitate, were we criminals or needed reinserted as normal productive citizens in our community? Were we drug or alcohol addicts needed to help to conquer our addictions? We're talking about 26 years after the overthrow, Prince Jonah Kuhio goes to Congress and talks about the rehabilitation of his people. Did we lose our reputation for something that we did wrong and needed to make amends? Or was Kuhio talking about the returning us back to who we were? 5 areas of rehabilitation. This is coming out of the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act. Also created a series of funds. The purpose of one of these funds is the rehabilitation of Native Hawaiians, Native Hawaiian families, and Native Hawaiian homestead communities, which shall include education, economic, political, social, cultural process by which the general welfare and conditions of Native Hawaiians are thereby improved and perpetuated. So who were we? We were a socially accepted communal people on Ahupua'a. We were free to practice our culture and cultural beliefs. We were economically solvent within our kingdom. We were educated in our ways and Western ways simultaneously. We were politically sovereign and represented by our Kingdom of Hawaii Constitution and Kingdom government. This is the purpose of the act. So you can see 26 years later, Kuhio was talking about rehabilitating us, bringing us back to what we once were, a sovereign people, a sovereign government. So this is what we was prior to the overthrow of the government. That is rehabilitation that our prince was talking about. Is this not obvious? The colonization and indoctrination of a foreign system being forced on our people continues today. It continues today. You know, 1905. 1905, they took over the educational system. They created this indoctrination of American citizens, forcing our Hawaiian people, banning the language and the culture, forcing us to believe that we're American citizens, pledging allegiance to the flag. Very documented historical information that I don't care to go over right now. But the realization is that we were never American citizens and we was indoctrinated into that. So this is how I feel. And not personally to you, Andrew, not personally to Kahana, but just to understand the history of our people. The Hawaiian Homes Commission perpetuates this colonization and indoctrination process. It continues today. The repression of our people continues today. DHHL perpetuates this colonization, indoctrination, and repression of our people even today. The sadness I have truly is that the state appointments and employees of Hawaiian Homes and the Commission are Native Hawaiians, and they're pushing you to do their dirty work of colonization, indoctrination. As Hawaiians, you can choose not to perpetuate this injustice. I gave you the statistics and looking at the history of these schools. One school stands out like a sore thumb in the process of rehabilitation, and that's Punana Leo. Bringing back our culture, bringing back in our language, started 30 years ago. These are the entities that we as Hawaiians and organizations, including DHHL, who's tasked with the task of helping to rehabilitate us, bring us back to what we once were, a sovereign people. And then we only can do that if we continue with taking care of our health, bring back our culture, get our language spoken on a regular basis. And it's not until then that our people will not rise from this Aina and become a sovereign people. That is the statement of our Homestead Association. Thank you.
Mahalo, Mike. I hope you are reading that and you can send a copy of your comments to us. That will save us time taking notes.
Yeah, I put it in writing.
Okay, thank you. Other comments, especially for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to share your mana'o. And if you're like me, a little bit shy, you can type it in the chat box if you want to at this time.
Aloha kako, I want to comment to Mike. As a third generation lessee of the Aina Ho'opulapula, my grandparents were one of the first ones in Hawaiian homes, just like Michael's in-laws, the 1952 lessees. I was one of the women who sat in a circle, how we were going to bring restored rehabilitation, the Hawaiian language and the culture into our Waimea community. I'm also a granddaughter of a Waimea leader, Elaine Flores, who at one time, the Waimea Hawaiian Civic Club had the lease on that Civitan building. And it was through them, with their efforts, that supported us in getting this building. I'm kaumaha to hear. And believe me, I also sat around in Punana Leo helping Tuho Okumu Kanuoka Aina. I went to Kanuoka Aina, taught there for 12 years, went back to the nest, to the Punana. And to hear that we at the Aha Punana Leo pays an X amount of money, and our neighboring schools on the Aina Ho'opulapula pay close to nothing, that's kind of eha. And I cannot, I just, mahalo Mike for bringing all of this to light, Michael. Mike, call Mike, because I see Michael over here. Mike, mahalo nui. And inside of me is just eha loa. That our babies, the babies that we sit with daily, look at this logo of the Aha Punana Leo, how that manu, hanai, that baby manu, that's what we're doing there. And we seem to be paying the most in Waimea. Shame, shame, shame. The kupuna would say, shame on you, hila, hila. And that is why we have animosity going on with some of you guys sitting there. That's hila, hila. I would think, now that I'm older, why wouldn't you stand pa'a behind what Aha Punana Leo wants for the betterment, for the rehabilitation of their people, what the prince wanted. Mike, when I was listening to you, tears came down, and all I can say is pa'i kalima, because you are right, my brother. You are right. And I mahalo Auntie Kanani for being here, because Auntie Kanani, she kupa'a, she stands. Here we have representatives of the Waimea Hawaiian Civic Club in here too. Because why? Like how they stood and supported us, Aha Punana Leo, or Punana Leo Waimea Kalamai, they stood behind Kanuoka Aina too. But I'm sure that's a big eye opener, what we paying and what Kanuoka Aina paying. And their lease goes to what? 2061. My grandmother would say, shame on you guys. Mahalo.
Other comments? Oh, is that your hand, Auntie Kanani?
Yes. A question for Kahana. What's the justification for charging $10,800 a year for 0.42 acres for an organization that does service rehabilitate per that Mike's excellent presentation?
Kahana, you're on mute.
Maybe he's gone.
Calamite, no, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Got you, bro.
Okay. I'd have to look at the paperwork. This was back in 2011, somewhere around there, as far as the justification, the increase in rent. And I believe it wasn't gratis. They were paying rent before it was stepped up or it was extended back in 2011 for that additional 10 years. If I'm not mistaken. So I don't want to put my foot in my mouth and say something that I shouldn't have or say something that is incorrect. I'd like to look at the paperwork.
Yeah, I did that, Kahana. I had this Mike. I looked at the Hawaiian Homes annual report for the last 30 years.
Right.
And I went through every annual report, looking at licenses, looking at general leases and how the thing transitioned. And in those years from, I believe, 2011, 12, 13, and 14, there was no report of the license, the lease, the general lease or right of entry. Nothing was inserted about that information. So that kind of was left vague. And the first time it came back up was in 2014 with lease rent at 2008. So I'm taking it from the annual reports. So you probably have in your office better information. You stay mute, brother.
Calamite, again, I can share that information once I get it.
Yeah, well, it was just for knowledge. I wanted everybody to understand where the building came from, how the thing started, how the thing came to life. Yeah, this is an old building. I talked to the general contractor, that Sean Murphy, not a homesteader. You guys know Denise Murphy, her husband, general contractor, the license, and helped with the initial fixing up of one rundown, broken down place. So it's not like the department had invested any money whatsoever into that building. This was done by the school, and the community. Most of everything dedicated and volunteered put into this 1934 building. So you're looking at 90-something years old building that the school has kept alive. Just wanted to make sure that we understood that.
No, thank you. I understand. Mahalo.
Mike, mahalo for that, because you need to know that the community came together. Makali'i came together. Nakoa o Pu'ukohola came together. Nakupuna o the DOE program, they all came together. And Mike is right. Sean Murphy was the contractor, said that we could do what we needed to do. I am one of the, my son was one of the first students. We also had families in Waimea who came to help, but because it took us over 2 years to get that building together and approved or licensed for children, some of these kids never even made it. So yes, I'm here to kako'o omana'o, Mike.
All right.
Yeah, I just wanted to mahalo you, Anakala, for bringing that up and sharing with us all of that information. Of course, I was not aware of that as well about the other schools. And I just want to reiterate what he said, along with all the other great things he said, but besides to mahalo for sharing all that, just to reiterate that Punana Leo is the only school that is for the Olelo Hawaii and for Keiki to be educated through the Hawaiian perspective. It is based in Hawaiian values. and which includes our traditional knowledge, our lavena, our spirituality. All of those things are included in what we teach our keiki here, not only at Punana Leo, but at Halokehao. So I just wanted to reiterate that that is the difference between this school, and that is, wow, that is a difference than the other schools that he's talking about. Not to badmouth the other schools or say that there's anything wrong with those schools, but to show that is the difference. That is what sets Aha Punana Leo apart from the other schools, is that our keiki not only learn through the Olelo Hawaii, they're learning perspective, they're learning about, like I said, all of those other things, spirituality, traditional knowledge, all of that is encompassed. Like I talked about during the presentation, all of those groups came together to see that these students, as they continue on, would be well-rounded kanaka to be able to do all of those things through the Olelo Hawaii, so to be even more pa'a. And then just to clarify what the question that was brought up about the lease. So the lease was signed June 7th of 2012, and that's what I have, where the start of the $900 a month came from. Mahalo.
6/12. Gotta keep my history correct.
June 12th is my birthday, by the way.
Yeah. Important day.
Yeah. For those of you who haven't had an opportunity to share your mana'o or ask a question, now's your opportunity. You don't have to, but this is a space for you to share your mana'o on this requested use of Hawaiian homeland. So please, I urge you to take advantage of this opportunity. Okay, well, if there are no other comments or questions, I'm just going to, oh, wait, sorry, I saw something come in.
I get something.
Hello, Kahaku, would you like to clarify your question?
I got crissed out, so I don't know what you're asking. I got my computer died, so I just got back in.
Oh, just if anyone else had additional questions on the presentation or additional mana'o you would like to share regarding this proposed use of Hawaiian homelands, now is the opportunity.
If I can address everybody once more. It's Mike.
Go ahead.
I know we've talked about the lands with HIPAA. You know, during this process of investigation is what I do. I've learned the Uncle Alex, Uncle Andrew, Akau, Uncle Clem Kaniho, Uncle John Kilunui, a few others, was very instrumental, probably 25, 30 years ago, that the land where the HIPAA stay, they had designed a, almost like a park, engineered with imu, banana, tea leaf, all the things needed for the hall when people have parties, and making it one Native Hawaiian cultural park and planting our indigenous plants. They had a plan like that, and it never came into fruition. And as I brought this up and as I polled our members, this topic came up. So the land that you talk about has a plan. You know, it's funny that when I investigate and when I dig into the community, it's just amazing what pops out. So I'm in the process of obtaining this plan that was engineered for that small piece of property right behind the kitchen door of the hall, which is adjacent to Punana Leo. You know, when I first took over the homestead about 12 years ago, they asked me to lead our people. I reached out into the community and asked them, what do you want me to do? You tell me what to do. And so they wanted different things. And in our process of doing a survey, plans came out. I heard of plans in the 1960s for our community lands. There was a plan in 1979 that Auntie Kanani gave me from Jackie Pung of our community lands. There was a plan in 1994 by another one of our past presidents, Dan Kaniho Jr. And so in a process of developing and looking at our community lands and identifying the needs of our community, our Hawaiian community, not just beneficiaries, our entire Hawaiian community, I found that these plans exist out there. But because it fell on deaf ears or we never know how to move it forward, these plans get pushed aside. And then you get situations like Kanoka Aina. And I'm not trashing the school. This is the fact. I'm a factual person. I don't take sides. Kanoka Aina comes in with a plan without knowing that there was previous plans for our community lands, and gets the 50-year general lease or 50-year license to build a school, and which interferes with the community plans that was done in 64, in 79, in 94. And then now in 2011, when we came up with that. So it's important that before we even consider using any lands, whether it be in Waimea or any other homestead area, that deep research needs to be made with the community, with the beneficiaries, to see if there are plans out there. Not every homesteader, very few actually. I mean, look how much beneficiaries on this meeting. We get 400 members, beneficiary members on our homestead association. You get 536 lessees that you mailed out to it. How much beneficiaries are on this call? So it's not, our Hawaiian people are not ma'a to this system, not ma'a to go out and speak, whether hila or whatever. But we need to take time to investigate, take time to inquire, take time to research, and go and do what I just did. Go and seek out our kupuna and gather that information and that knowledge, so that we don't rush into just, this is what we like to do, so we're going to put up this. Understand where the community comes from, because maybe you interfering with other ideas, and that's why you get hakaka, So that's not how our Hawaiian community should be. As an ahupu'a, we are supposed to be one. And Waimea Nui and True to Homestead is in that process of making us one ahupu'a, and with different divisions or arms of the one entity, so that all Hawaiian organizations in Waimea Nui know what everybody's doing. So instead of us clashing, instead of us arguing or stepping on top of each other, we actually work together and we collaborate with one another, so that we pono in our community the way our ahupu'as was once before. We talk about being Hawaiian, but we live the colonization of the Western system, and we fail to realize that we need to be pono with one another and know what everybody in the community, the Hawaiian community, is doing, so that we can collaborate and work with each other. Every organization, Hawaiian organization in Waimea, should have been on this call, because that's another Hawaiian that is one Hawaiian organization that is perpetuating the rehabilitation of our people to bring us back to what we once were, was sovereign people. All the Hawaiian organizations, I could count 20 or 25 of them, all should be on this call, because we should have all the same mission on what Kuhio stated, the rehabilitation, bring us back to what we once were, socially acceptable, free to practice our culture, economically sound, educationally, most highly educated people, and then politically sovereign. We're not going to do that if we're fighting with each other, if we just focus on ourselves and not focus on everybody around us. And I'm not going to be wahanui and just say that. That's why I'm on this call, because this is a Hawaiian organization, grassroots, came from homesteaders to perpetuate our culture, perpetuate our language. The very mission of the beneficiary organization of the homestead. Same mission. We gotta stand together, and that's what I want to finish with. Mahalo, everybody.
Mahalo for that, Mike. If there are no other comments, I can't think of a better way to end the meeting. Let me real fast go over next steps. Auntie Kanani had a question about next steps. I just wanted to clarify that the next steps, let me go back. So as I mentioned earlier, there is a 30-day comment period that we allow beneficiaries additional time to comment on a proposal. So that comment period starts tonight and ends on August 20th. So for those of you in the Waimea community who know of other people who are interested on this topic and wanted to weigh in, but were unable to participate on Zoom tonight due to other competing priorities, please let them know that there's still an additional opportunity to comment and share their mana'o on this topic. You can email the comments to dhhl.planning@hawaii.gov. So we will be receiving comments via email up until August 20th. This meeting will be posted on the DHHL website at the same location, same webpage that you folks used to log into the meeting. So if people who didn't have the opportunity to participate tonight wanted to watch tonight's conversation, they can do so on the DHHL website. After the comment period is Paul, we will be taking a beneficiary consultation report, which is just a fancy way of saying that we will be summarizing the comments that we heard tonight for the Hawaiian Homes Commission so that they have information about what beneficiaries in the region are thinking about regarding this proposal. So they will take that into consideration when the department seeks commission approval for Aha Punana Leo's license request. And we hope to take both the consultation report and ask for commission approval in September of this year. So with that, I'd just like to mahalo everyone for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us tonight and share your mana'o on this proposed use of Hawaiian homelands. Auntie Kanani, you had your hand up, sorry.
I'd like to thank you for and the department for making this consultation available. It's very valuable. I enjoyed attending and participating, and I really appreciate the opportunity to hear others and the mana'o from each one that has presented. It's very valuable, and I'm happy to see that others who have not participated does have the opportunity to watch on the website. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Auntie, and it's nice to see you. I haven't seen you as much in the last couple of years, last year, because I haven't traveled, so nice to see you. On that note, thank you everyone again. And have a good evening.
And Andre, can you text me to make sure that you got my email?
Okay, I will.
My presentation. Mahalo, mahalo everybody.
Okay.
Mahalo nui a kako.
Aloha.
Aloha.